Yeah, if you've ever had something that you just couldn't get out of your mind, just kind of stuck with you for days. Well, I stopped at a garage sale a few weeks ago, and when I pulled up, it was just another garage sale. That's what I thought. But I left there thinking something much, much deeper. It wasn't just another garage sale. It was a situation where there was a relocation going to happen. Daughter was relocating her parents, and most of the stuff there was owned by this one gentleman. And I first laid eyes on him. He came out of his house and he came into the garage. He was a tall guy, way over 6 feet tall, maybe 6'3", 6'5", but he was very frail. And I guess he'd reached a point where it was time to get out of the big house, and the daughter was handling the sale. So he would come out occasionally, and he would maybe pick something up and kind of look at it, and then he would kind of look around and he would see what was going on, and he would watch as people bought his stuff and loaded it in their vehicle, and off they went. Well, this gentleman had a lot of fishing equipment, and he had really good equipment, really good lures, top of the line rods and reels. And I knew from looking at this equipment that he was an avid fisherman, and he had the kind of equipment that would take years to accumulate. His collection was vast, and it was good, no cheap stuff. Well, I wound up buying some of it. I bought a bunch of crankbaits and lures and just stuff like that. And again, he'd come out occasionally and he'd look around and he could see what was going on, and he'd go back in the house. And I thought about this guy for a while, because it was his life. It was his life that was being sold. It was his life that was going into someone else's hands. And that kind of happens if you're going to relocate. But in his case, in my mind, it was important stuff. It was stuff that had great memories, I'm sure. And although I didn't know the guy, and I surely didn't know him 20 or 30 years ago, but from the looks of everything that was there and was being sold, he had a great life. He had a full life. One of the things that I saw is that he had his bicycle, and it was for sale too. And I noticed that it had been marked down. There was a price on it that was scratched out and marked down. And looking at it, it was a very high quality bike. It was a bike called a Specialized Globe, and I knew that was a high dollar bike. And I could see the frame. The frame had a big XL on it from the factory, extra large, because he was an extra large guy. And I watched the negotiation between the daughter and whoever bought it, and she had to go back into the house and she had to talk to the older gentleman. I don't know if it was about the price, if it was a question about the bicycle, but that bicycle for him, I'm sure, was a huge, huge memory. And I thought about him, and I thought, well, because you could see the bicycle had been ridden. It had been ridden miles and miles and miles. He used that bicycle. Well, the bicycle got sold and it got loaded into back of someone's truck. The daughter had come back out and they sold it. I need to give a shout out to that daughter, because I observed the daughter too. The daughter was putting on a sale. She was relocating her parents, and she was doing the heavy lifting. And I know this was out of love. I watched her. She was always pleasant. She was never rude. She was busy. She was answering price questions. She was negotiating. She was moving boxes. And as I'm watching her, I could just kind of tell she was exhausted. She had done so much work to make this thing happen. And if you've ever had a yard sale, garage sale, or whatever you call it in your area, you know that the day of the sale is minor compared to the amount of work that went into getting it ready. Separating things, pricing things, putting things in boxes, putting things on a table or on a shelf. It's a big job. It's a huge job. And she handled that job. She did that out of love, I'm sure. And she probably had other things to take care of. This is just me conjuring things up. But she probably had decisions to make. And she did. She handled it. She took care of it. Well, that was the daughter. Big shout out to the daughter. She did a great job. You did a great job. So anyway, I bought some things, and it's fishing equipment. And all the way home, I'm driving, and I'm thinking about this. I'm not thinking about the fishing equipment so much, although I was really happy to have it, high quality stuff. I was thinking about the guy that owned it. And I was thinking that, probably some of that stuff, like, something like, maybe he bought that on vacation. Or maybe his wife gave that to him for Christmas, because she knew that was his thing. He was a big fisherman. He had things to fish for pike, things to fish for bass. And maybe, some of the biggest bass he ever caught was with this. So I was thinking about him as much as I was the equipment. And that's kind of stayed with me. When I got home and I was unloading everything out of my truck, kind of putting it away, the thought crossed my mind that someday that'll probably be my garage sale. And my kids will handle it. They'll handle it out of love, just like his did. But that might be my garage sale. Maybe that'll be your garage sale. And maybe it's not just, fishing equipment. It could be anything, whatever your collection was. Whatever we own will wind up in someone else's hands eventually. But your collection or your sewing room or whatever it is, this is not a sad story. It's a reflective story about a man and his life and the normal things of change. So again, I was thinking that it might be my garage sale. This has stayed with me, and I don't know how long that'll be. Maybe you've had something like that, or maybe you've experienced a situation where you had to relocate someone or just move. There's a lot of work. Again, shout out to the daughter. But if you have any stories, anything like that, do me a favor. Leave them in the comments. We get a lot out of the comments. I greatly appreciate it. I absolutely do. And if you've hung with me this long, I really do appreciate your time. I appreciate you hanging with me. Maybe you give me a thumbs up, and maybe you consider subscribing to my channel. I really do appreciate your time. Thank you.